reporters out there who take this seriously.
You're talking about the FBI's latest saying that
FBI
they're looking into different...
Exactly. I find it a little humiliating, having just traveled from China, coming to the UK, seeing the amount of news, sort of a smirk on people's faces following our elections. And more deeply, we have a deep division in our country. I would say, whether it's Trump or whatever, about 40% very angry people out there, and I think Trump represents that, and Hillary the others. And as a Democrat and somebody who knows Donald Trump, and been with him socially and found him very pleasant, but choose Hillary Clinton, and more important, we just have to stop this freeze.
You've made films, let's just say Wall Street, for which you won an Oscar in the 80s. That was the epitome of greed is good, to quote you, of the inequality gap, which people today are resenting all over the world, this populist backlash against that kind of reality. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, you, in your Hollywood persona, personified that moment.
Well,
what's wrong with our society?
Well, I love that. I think that the most surprising thing for me for Wall Street, which was one of the great villain parts of all time, and now is what, it's 1986, that for the rest of the time, every evening, there's some drunken Wall Street investment banker or UK investment banker going, hey, greed is good. You're the man. Yeah, you're the reason why I got into this business. They go, I went to jail, pal. No, that's okay. So they love the suits. They love the look. They love the power. They love the money. And I've always been struck by the fact that they were never bothered by the fact that this guy was an insider trader and he went to jail, but they saw Gordon Gekko as a hero. And I think that was, an eye-opener for me after making that picture.
What do you think it says, though, about society today?
Well, there's a degree of every man for himself. We're seeing this huge disparity in wealth. That there is no trickle down. I understand it. We at least in the United States, we survived and we got along comfortably with a strong middle class. Our middle class now is hurting. You used to be able to say with pride, as an immigrant or wherever you have it, you reach a middle class situation, you could afford your children to go to school, you could buy a house. It's not happening.
You just mentioned immigrants. Your family is a family of immigrants. Your father, his parents and grandparents were Russians. They came over to the United States. Your dad, in his 100th year, recently wrote an op-ed for the Huffington Post in which he said he didn't recognize his America anymore, the America of welcoming immigrants, the America which, on this campaign trail, has immigrants have been demonized to a large extent. Talk about that. What motivated your dad at this stage of his life to write that?
Well, my grandparents were Russian Jews from Belarus. They arrived in the U.S. in 1914. My father was born in 1916. His father, my grandfather, was a ragman. My grandparents neither read or wrote or spoke English. As a country, he worked hard, had a great middle school teacher that pushed him to get an education. He went on, got a scholarship to college, hitchhiked to college on a manure truck, achieved well, became a collegiate wrestling champion, on to become an actor, had an extraordinary career as an actor, which people know about. But they probably don't know about it as much, Christian, is his humanitarian efforts that he's made in his life and his beliefs in tikkun oman, or trying to repair the world and make it a better place. And through a year of acquiring a large fortune, he's now basically given it all away to charity and to others. He's overcome all sorts of strokes, helicopter crashes, and all of that. And I think his point, which was directed not only to the hostility that exists about building a wall in our country, certainly issues that exist here in Europe with the immigration problem, is this just the reminder that at his time, Catholics were not welcomed either in the States. Jews certainly were not. There is a strong animosity. but eventually we did become a melting pot. And where we differ from most of Europe is that we are a country of immigrants. It's just a question of which generation got here last. So I think to blame, with our economic ill wills that we have in our countries, to blame this all on immigration is really not fair. I walked around London early yesterday morning, and there's a lot of construction going on, this and that, and all I heard was Romanian languages. And so, there are a lot of people that are doing, a lot of immigrants who are doing work that maybe people in that country choose not to do. So it's an issue that Dad felt strongly about, just looking at it and kind of remembering his own roots, that we all tend to forget the fact, particularly in the U.S., that we are all immigrants.
You mentioned a helicopter crash. Explain.
He was 70 years old, and he had a friend who had a helicopter, and the friend was piloting the helicopter, and they were taking off from an airport outside of Los Angeles, a non-controlled airport. At the same time, a aerobatics plane, a small Pitts tail-dragging aerobatics plane with a student, 18-year-old student pilot, and his instructor were taking off. And as the helicopter hovered and came to go down the runway, the Pitts, which is tail-dragging, can't see until you get up to speed, took off, and they crashed about 40 feet in the air. The Pitts went down and exploded. Both the pilot and the student, 18-year-old student, were killed. My father fell 40 feet, with the rotor still going and gasoline pouring out, and didn't catch on fire. And I think basically that was the beginning of his spiritual turnaround, as he sat in the hospital and said, why am I alive and this 18-year-old kid is dead? And it was when he returned to his Judeo roots, began to study the Old Testament with a rabbi, and, quite honestly became a different man. So, do I admire my dad for turning 100? Absolutely. But more, Christian, I just can't believe how he's conducted his life, how he succeeded